where it shows that there are some people who have gone back to be able to sell the houses, the RDP houses, syndicates and all that. And we have been able to say to South Africans, we went to Minmek, we acknowledge that this is an area that we must pay attention to, because we have to worry about, and the question says, who is in our RDPs? And that's why we took this decision. In the coming months, once we have done the analysis, we'll come back to you. But our approach here, I have asked the legal team in the department to work together with legal firms, together with forensic investigation, to go and do a proper analysis across all our assets. We've committed to the Auditor General and everybody else that, and one of the proposals in our white paper talks about asset register and asset management in terms of the houses that we have. Now the challenge here is that we have people, we have given them the RDPs, and we find it when we issue title deeds. Many of the title deeds remain sitting, not being issued because either the person has been deceased, there's a fight in the house, but two, you find that some of the houses were sold before 8 years has been lapsed in violation with our act, but also you find that others have sold the houses, and this is where you find that also the issue around people who are saying to us they are foreign nationals in these houses. So what we have taken as a decision is that we are going to do, because it needs legal firm and forensic. For example, if it's a syndicate that is operating, you want the ability to be able to determine this is a syndicate that is operating, but they must have the ability themselves to be able to evict, issue lawyers, that's why we want the lawyers, to be able to evict the people who are there, but also assist us in terms of prosecutions. Because we believe that we can't go on like this. We initially thought that we'll do the operation Ziveze, where you go into communities, utilize, for example, in Gauteng, we thought that we'll utilize Mapanya to go and determine. But we then have determined that the problem is deeper. Because if you find it's a syndicate that has bought like 500 RDPs, they are leasing them out, or they are renting them out, or they are doing. So you need the ability to be able to prosecute, to prepare a case to go to court. And that's why we want the ability of the forensics to do the work, but also the legal firm to prepare a case so that we do not have unwinnable cases in that. I have said to South Africans, those who have sold our houses, those who have bought our houses, they must return their houses, our houses back before we arrive. So that time has arrived. I've given them enough warning since 2021. So I hope South Africans will not call us ruthless and heartless when people are arrested, because it's the right thing to do. We have to account for state funds. So this is what we want to do in terms of the work in this area. Now, the last area I want to touch is around, just to show you, we are concerned about performance of our metros. Last week I met with 3 metros in Gauteng. We've been doing interventions in various areas. And you would have heard the Auditor General raise concerns about performance. Now, as the National Department, we transfer funds through grants to municipalities and to provinces. So in the municipality, today I'm only covering the metros. And next time we'll cover when we do the next briefing, we'll cover the provinces in terms of our Human Settlement Development Grant. In the metros, we provide the metros with USDG grant. This grant provides for your infrastructure, bulk infrastructure, water, which is water, electricity, sanitation, and roads. They also have to provide, for example, social amenities such as clinics, building of new clinics, building of community halls within this, and then they will be able to categorize various areas in terms of the issues. And then we've got what we call informal settlement upgrading grant. This is to be able to pay attention to providing basic services into informal settlements that have not been formalized, but where we formalize, we have learned to be able to do bulk upgrade and move the upgrading of those informal settlements, but also purchase land to be able to relocate. Now, part of our concern over time is the performance of the municipalities around these grants. As you see the picture, as we close the financial year, many of the municipalities were not able to finish their grants, but also some of the concerns that we have, for example, over time, we had a meeting with the mayors in Gauteng. Only Mayor of Tshwane didn't attend, the MMC attended, but the 2 mayors attended in terms of the metros. Johannesburg, the new mayor in Johannesburg, the new mayor in Ekurhuleni, and Tshwane was represented by the MMC, unfortunately not the mayor. And we raised our concerns around performance. If you look here in the slide, you'll see, when we compare in terms of the USDG spending and ISUP spending, I mean, for example, if you look at Johannesburg, Johannesburg in US have gone to 94. We always say it has to be 95. But you look at Buffalo City sitting at 77, Nelson Mandela Bay at 86%, but worse off, it's Mangaung in terms of informal settlement upgrading, which we are concerned. We'll be having an urgent meeting with them as well to be able to turn around the situation there, send an implementation team to be able to look at this. But when you look in terms of our USDG, you'd find that Johannesburg spends 66% here in terms of the upgrading. These are bulk, these are roads, these are clinics. And when we looked here, you find that as we drill down to understand what is the problem, you find that the political instability in Johannesburg has affected. So administration will prepare documents, will prepare projects because they have to be approved by council. You find those documents don't make them in time to be able to go for approvals, and therefore projects don't start in time. So we have agreed with the 3 metros that we are not going to fold our arms and not intervene, we are going to go in. Ekurhuleni, one of our concerns was that our money was spent wrongly. For example, in one of the areas we picked up and we said to the mayor, he must go back and give us an explanation. We understand that it was not his, it's a legacy, but he has to give us an explanation together with the administration. There, one of the concerns that we have, for example, you find that the USDG grant is used for renovations of building, which is not supposed to be. So we've called for that to be corrected and therefore pay attention to be able to start correcting those issues. We have agreed that in Ekurhuleni, like we did in Nelson Mandela Bay, we are going to establish a war room that is having national, province, and local. The municipality will have their team. MEC Motara in the province will have her team. We'll send our team, and it will be chaired by the national team so that we can be able to turn around the situation, spending correctly, because we are not only looking at the spending. For example, if you look at eThekwini spends 100%, but value for money is not there. So that's part of what we worry about. So we have agreed even here with MEC Duma that we are going to go into eThekwini. We had to postpone our meeting there to be able to start intervening and ensuring that there's value for money, but there's spending. We can't continue to have grants that are unspent in the portfolio while people continue not to have access to water, access to toilets, access to electricity, but also not having roads, not having clinics, when the grants provide for that in their communities, especially in the 8 metros. There is no excuse why we send money back. So we do believe that, and we had a meeting at the beginning of the financial year so that we can change the situation. So in conclusion, I just want to highlight these are the issues that we are bringing to the attention, and maybe just also saying the human settlement, but that's why we are called human settlements. We are beyond just building of RDP houses and also responding to informal settlements, but more importantly, to ensuring that South Africans have access to adequate housing and responding even to the missing middle and gap market. And we do believe that all of us have to work together, both private and public. We have to work together to ensure that we build a better South Africa. And that's our call for our private sector colleagues to come on board and work with us to ensure that we can be able to turn the situation around, for the financial sector to come on board and play a part so that we can ensure that South Africans are able to have access to affordable home loans, but also in terms of having a shelter over their head. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for that, Minister. It was quite comprehensive. I hope that colleagues, you are ready with your questions, because I'm going to invite you for questions now. I'm going to start inside as we welcome both Dr. Muyebi and the other delegations to come back to the podium, to the stage. So I'm going to now request that we pose our questions. I'm going to start here internally in this room, and then we are going to now move to the online platform. I think Obatabile will ask hands. Question number 1. Do we have a question 2? So that we can take all and then move. You can go, my sister. Please press that red button, yes?
Sure. Good morning, Minister, and everyone on the panel. My name is Mmamoloko.
It's not audible?
Let me try the other one. Is this one better?
Yes.
Just speak a bit higher as well.
Good morning. My name is Mmamoloko Kubayi from Bloomberg News. My question is around some of the interventions that you are currently undertaking in addressing the legacy of apartheid spatial planning. Your colleague, the Deputy Minister of Finance, last week said that there would be a voucher system that you would be implementing where people get vouchers and they would, you would match them with a developer. Just broadly, are you able to explain what
can't
that is
hear.
about?
Okay, the
The
question
mic
is about an announcement that was made by the Minister of Social Development around
Social development?
Yes. Just repeat your question.
No.
It was the
Deputy Minister of Finance.
Deputy Minister of Finance.
Yeah, David Masondo. who's-
Please use your conference voice. You're just having a problem with the
Okay,
audio.
sure.
Yeah, we're battling to hear you this end.
No, continue using the mic first.
Continue with the mic. Just
Okay,
Sorry,
sure.
Dan.
So the Deputy Finance Minister last week was talking about a voucher system where a recipient would get a voucher and they would be matched with a developer, and they would then sort of choose where to go and follow, like we choose to go to a place that's closer to economic opportunities, because previously the housing system just, you were allocated a house, in whatever location without, for consideration of how many economic opportunities there would be around you. So I just wanted to find out just broadly how that system would work and how deeply you've done the work in trying to find out what the need is and how many of these vouchers you would be actually giving out, and maybe some of the costs involved.
okay. Thanks, Dando. I'll take the next question. You can go, sis.
And also from Newsroom Africa. Just a question around, as we're pushing to get more people in the debt market in the property sector, are we also looking at the cost of service deliveries for where those affordable housings are set up, so that the properties don't lose value because of service delivery affordability issues within that market?
Thank you for that. Is there another question so that I can allow Minister to respond? There isn't. Oh, there is. Oh, Stubo?
Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes, just speak loudly, please.
Okay.
Use your conference
It's,
voice.
regarding interventions on, the gap, but the one that actually is below 3.5 thresholds, because I heard the minister say that they're going to try to accommodate those that are earning between 3.5 and I believe 22,000. What happens to your garden boys and your kitchen girls who are working in, like for instance, Pretoria East, and there's a plastic view where they're residing because it's close to their employment base?
Okay, thanks, Timo. Okay, I have another follow-up from...
I'd just like to add,
Okay.
if we do have those figures, what are the penalties currently for banks, for not, and what penalty are we looking for failing to disclose the information as requested by the department?
Okay, thank you so much. But Sabila, I think...
The first question is from Londele Botana from Ngobo FM. What are the department's interventions regarding the floods that left? Last night, the ministry announced that an emergency housing team was dispatched to Swartland municipality for intervention.
Let's start with the Deputy Chair of Office of Disclosure.
Okay. We are going to have the Deputy Chair from the Office of Disclosure just to outline some of the areas that have been asked. Thanks.
Just up.
Can come this side.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Maybe I will start by highlighting some of the issues that we have been undertaking with the financial institution, especially in terms of changing to amend, in fact, some of the issues that we thought there were impediments to providing human settlement to our people, especially from the banking point of view. Some of the issues that we have been doing recently, in fact, since the beginning of this year, was to engage the bank mostly around the issues of reporting, which human settlement of today should be able to render to the citizens, given many challenges that we have been facing. Some of the issues maybe that I need to outline was mostly the issues on loans and also white versus blacks approval in terms of even interest rates that are even offered to either historically disadvantaged and historically disadvantaged individuals. Because this we have identified as issues that are indeed impeding the economic transformation, given the significance that human settlement has in our economy. The other issues that I needed to also highlight around the penalties. Unfortunately, at this point in time, we cannot give you the exact figure, since be in a position to give you that once the amendment has been finalized. So we will not want to just give you the figure while others take 100,000 as it stands, because at this point in time, we, according to the reports that we have seen, mostly from the financial institutions, you mostly find lots of nil reports, not because there are no reports, but because there are no consequences, and therefore, if we introduce penalties that are that would be able to speak to the challenges that we are currently facing, at least there would be some level of seriousness from the side of the financial institution to start reporting. And another issue that we also want to bring to your attention, currently the new proposed amendments is to make sure that this becomes compulsory, so that no one has got a loophole to really not report on issues that affects South Africa's economic transformation. I think those are the only issues that I thought we need to bring to your attention. I think the issue of integrated, I think there was a question around the cost of service delivery affordability and where, so that I think is the minister's one. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mpengaleni. We are going to now invite Mr. Vutula to the podium to take some of the questions you've asked. If there's any more questions now, please just, in the meantime, send them on the WhatsApp so that you are able to provide the feedback that you require. Thanks.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Minister. Maybe just from an NHFC, there's a lot that we're doing around affordability. I think, as the Minister said earlier on, I mean, part of what we are doing around first home finance, I mean, the whole purpose there is to ensure that people between 3.5 and 22,000, they can actually get a subsidy, and then hopefully then get the mortgage from the banks. And I think we're obviously quite excited about the fact that, you know, there will be this disclosure, because it is necessary, because government is putting in, I think, a lot in terms of the subsidy through first home finance. But also just to say around the issue of affordability, and also to bring in, I think, more previously disadvantaged people, I think, into the sector. We are working on an incubator program, just to make sure that we can bring in more people who can actually not just be recipients of houses, but also can actually do business, I think, in this sector, because there's lots of opportunities. And I think there was also an issue around people who are possibly earning less than 3,500. We do want to say that our has been, in fact, I must say this, I think, through the leadership of the Minister here. The reality is that, you know, we are the biggest provider of social housing finance in this country. That also includes inner city. So we are looking at that, and certainly through some of the institutions that we have founded, I think as NHFC, like, for example, the Trust for Urban Housing Finance, which operates in the inner cities. And the intention there is to bring people into the inner city so that they are closer to their working environments. So I think those were the issues, I think, that we can respond to as NHFC. Thank you, Minister.
Thank you so much. I'm going to now invite the DG of the Department of Human Settlements, Dr. Alec Muweni, to give some of the responses that you've requested. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Well, good afternoon to everybody, and thanks to the Minister. Just to respond to the issues raised pertaining to the natural disasters that occurred and with partially damaged properties and our response thereto. But first to indicate a bit of context that as natural disasters occur, we as the department, and together this being a concurrent mandate, which we share with municipalities as well as provinces, the idea really is that we should help restore the lives of those who are impacted by the natural disasters and other declared disasters such as fires, where properties get damaged in this regard and lost. Our job is to actually try and bring them back to where they would have been had the natural disaster or the loss of property not have occurred. Given that reality, we realized from early on that there were challenges. Many of the restoration work was not being done adequately, and we also realized that the response time it took for municipalities as well as provinces to respond to these disasters was inadequate. We consulted widely with within government itself, with our stakeholders, providing it adequately. Ultimately, it's between 48 to 72 hours of having confirmed beneficiaries. Having said that, we are aware about the legacy issues of the old order dispensation, in which many of the, or some of the interventions that provinces and municipalities may have made, we had been responding to them and responding adequately to them. Our response is in three ways. First, within the first aftermath of the disaster having occurred, we provide what we call a TA, a temporary emergency accommodation. Typically, even in some instances of recent in Nelson Mandela Bay, we even provided cheaper hotel accommodation opportunities for those that are most vulnerable. And by that as an immediate response, potential unit, a TRU. And that one, we provide it. You are going to stay in it for a duration while we provide you with a permanent solution. At an RDP house as a permanent arrangement for you to stay in. So given that, we are already exploring many ways. Minister has pushed us to say we must look at alternative building technologies. We must look at how we stretch the rent and we ensure that we reach many beneficiaries than just one, because if you can imagine, if we are paying 3 times as we are doing currently for a temporary emergency accommodation and for a TRU and ultimately for the RDP house again. But if we were to look into our policy framework around our intervention on the temporary residential unit, and if we were to build what will become acceptable to our people as a permanent solution that can be built almost immediately, then we don't have to build an RDP house and also a temporary residential unit for the same person. We simply can build a permanent solution for a person once off, and it will mean our response times are much more faster and much more greater and quicker. To be specific to those 2 questions that have come across about our response in KZN as well as Eastern Cape, we think that we have responded adequately this far. We have provided, and the contractors for TRUs are on the ground both in KZN as well as in the Eastern Cape, and we are also looking at further beneficiary management for purposes of a permanent solution. So there our response has been quite adequate, and we are glad to say so. And on the one of Swartland, our team did go on the ground, and having gone there, we had also done the beneficiary management process, and our processes with the province are underway for an adequate response, having due consideration to what I said, the legacy issues that we are not by law allowed to spend current funding on the older order type of disasters. And it's a matter that even at a functional group with the National Treasury, we had raised that a permanent solution be found to all what is outstanding from the old order dispensation before the funds were centralized under National Department. Thank you.
Thanks, DG. Maybe let me just conclude. I don't know if there's still other questions, but just to conclude on this one. Quickly, maybe let me start with the issue raised by Deputy Minister of Finance. They have not engaged us as the policy holder and the implementing. We'll look at what they are saying. We've engaged with the team that has been working with finance team, the Harvard business team. Previously, there were issues I was concerned about their approach, even their understanding of the legacy of apartheid in South Africa in the manner that they were defining what needs to be done. I met them, I think, twice or three times, where I gave them feedback and my concerns around those issues. For example, if you are to say somebody must get a voucher in the inner city to build, where will they build? So those are the realities. If we want, for example, an employee of government to come and build in the inner city, there isn't land availability. All of us know the metro's biggest challenge across the country in where the opportunities for work is land availability. And that's why part of the issue, we went and worked together with Public Works. We established a team to be able to look at the buildings that exist within the inner cities. Some are owned by municipalities, by the way, that are refusing to give. We'll have to continue nudge because Constitution says that we can, what would the word call, accept the powers of the municipalities based on the Constitution. So we've got to allow them to do what they can do in local sphere. For example, we're observing what is happening in Johannesburg and we'll continue to engage them because there are about 148 buildings that have been assessed in Johannesburg that are under JPC, but we believe they can be repurposed and be made social housing. So it's those things that we'll continue to work with. What we think will be interventions, for example, it's different segment market intervention. So not one size fits all. For example, when we deal with disasters, in KwaZulu-Natal, Pietermaritzburg, we were able to provide vouchers for those who wanted to fix their roofs. So it's easier that way. If you are to provide, because you still have to do accountability in terms of Auditor General and for the funds that you use. But we are happy that National Treasury is actually starting to pay attention to the challenges that we have, because some of the difficulties previously has been them, and I'm happy they have been quite open lately, and they are willing to support us. So with what Deputy Minister Masonde is saying, we will be approaching him both in his capacity as Deputy Minister of Finance, but Chair of PIC, where we think those funds can assist our developers to be able to build affordable housing. I know my Chair of NSHFC will be very happy to work with PIC to have availability of capital funds to be able to repurpose buildings in inner cities available for our citizens. So that is a welcome. I did tell him that we need to have a meeting, ASAP, myself and him, together with the chair of GPF, actually, that would want to work with them, partner with them in accessing their capital funding for us to be able to support our developers, to be able to build, but also for other support for our own South Africans, especially those who work for government, to be able to utilize their money. So the issue of cost of service delivery, look, it's various issues. Municipalities, and I'm assuming this, you're talking about services that we have to pay. One of the issues that we have to take into consideration, for example, we have a building that HDA has in the city of Cape Town, Sea Point. And we're saying if we are to put, for example, we are battling with that, how we're going to cross-subsidize the low-incomers. Because just on services and rates and taxes are more than even what the person can afford. So those are the realities, and that's why we have to come in and we are talking about an intervention in the market, because if you allow the market to run on its own, it's not going to be. So the issue, that's why the conversation that Dr. Mmamoloko Kubayi is talking about in terms of affordability of electricity, it's one of the issues that we believe can be able to assist. But if you are able to have, for example, how we do it with social housing, because with social housing, we are able to build buildings and it's subsidized for people to be able to afford rent because we come in as government. But there's limited, that's what we want to do. The partnership, bring in your PICs and others to be able to assist us to make more stocks available, what we call stock in terms of the market available. So it will be, but the conversation continues. We want to encourage people, because sometimes people say it's too much expensive, we can't afford. We want to encourage people to continue to pay services while we're looking at various areas of interventions. Various municipalities actually, even on social housing, have come in to provide subsidy. I know, for example, we engaged City of Cape Town. They did, in terms of social housing, come in and reduce the amount. So we continue to have conversation. Johannesburg started to have that conversation. We just need to follow up and ensure that it can be done and implemented. So that's one of the issues. I think the chair responded to what we call low-income earners, domestic workers market. These are the ones that we, for example, we've pushed for them to have minimum wage income, but in terms of affordability is one of the challenges. One of the issues that we're starting to pay attention to, and we are finalizing our white paper, is the review of the amount, 3,500. Dr. Mhlongo is here, who's leading that process together with some of the teams in the department and Dr. Marwan. And one of the issues that what is being proposed is to change the 3,500 upwards, either 5,000, 6,000, because intervene in terms of our, what is it called, our review of white paper policy. And the last point around, I know Chair or Deputy Chair of Office of Disclosure was saying we will engage. We will actually get into the room, but 100,000 is far less for the penalties of the banks. We will increase it to the point that we'll look at what Competition Commission is able to do with the penalties, but also we've got to do something that makes them feel the impact. So we can't continue. That's why we are acknowledging that 100,000 is just not making anything in terms of non-compliance. So once we finalize the white paper, we'll announce the amounts and the nature of penalties that we want to see, just not only in terms of figures, but what penalties do we want to see that will have an impact in terms of the financial sector to be able to come onto the party. Thank you very much.
Thanks for that, Minister, for the responses. Colleagues, I don't know if there's any more questions, because we are going to bring it to a close if there isn't any more questions. I know that Watabile is saying that there isn't anything online, and I'm sure there's nothing in the room. Okay. If there's nothing else, colleagues, I'm going to wrap it up. Okay. I'm going to wrap it up. For us, thank you so much for having us and for attending this media briefing. It was quite important. I'm hoping that colleagues are going to walk away here with some very extravagant front